No. Is absent. Evans, absent. Heisler White,
Present.
Moody,
Present.
O'Toole,
Here.
Schneider,
Here.
and Madmore.
Present.
That is 5 present, 2 absent.
Now we go to approval of the agenda and minutes, but I believe staff has recommended that we put an addition to the agenda. Emma, you want to take that? Or
Yeah, I can take that.
Honorable Chair and Planning Commission, we recommend that Resolution 2025-04 is added to the agenda.
okay, what would we call that? Would that be two? What number should we put that in the agenda, clerk?
6B double I would work.
6B double I. Oh, you have it here. All right. Thank you. Laura Leonard, Chair will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
And move.
Donald Toole moves.
Second.
Chris seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we go to the Planning Commission meeting minutes, 4/14/2025, an age ago.
Chair,
Yes.
we never actually made a motion to add that item to the agenda.
Oh,
Unless
okay.
that motion was it.
All right, we'll go back and somebody give me a motion to add item 6BI to the agenda.
I'll make a motion to add item 6BI involving resolution 2025-4 with the city.
I think it should be BII.
BII 6BII. Okay. Resolution 2025-04, City of Laramie Planning Commission appointing a member to the Comprehensive Plan 2045 Steering Committee for the City of Laramie, Wyoming. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. It is 6BII. Then we'll go back to the minutes of the meeting of 4/14/25. Our motion.
Motion to approve the meeting minutes as presented.
Second by O'Toole. All those in favor?
Aye.
It's approved. And we go to 2BII. The Joint City Council and Laramie Planning Commission meeting minutes from 04/22/25. Second. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
It's approved. Citizen comments. I see none online and none in the audience. So we'll just move right on. Planning Commission and staff reports and comments.
Chair, Commission, my name is Derek Taney. We haven't met in a while. I feel like it's been a while since we have had a planning commission meeting. So I thought a little break in the humor might be good. No, yes, we are back. We do have a few items kind of coming up over the next month. So we should be kind of back at regular. It just was a weird time where we landed where we just didn't have anything to bring you together. So got a few Mondays off. So I hope you enjoyed your Mondays. The real only announcement that I have is kind of starting here at the end of this month. We're really going to be pushing out a lot of information about the comprehensive plan update. Really, as a planning commission, it's kind of one of your largest roles. It's you're the approving body for the comprehensive plan. If you don't know that, I'm telling you now. And the council actually just certifies that what you all have approved is in line with what the community comes up with. And so just what I want to just put out there is in the next month, you're going to probably start seeing a lot more information about that. In the next month, you're probably going to get some of your first opportunities to start providing some of the initial input. Tell people what's going on. Let them know how to get in touch with our office if they want to be involved. There's going to be a lot of opportunities for what I'm going to say generic public comment of like just showing up at a farmer's market or a town hall meeting or things like that, where you can provide input and look at maps and do things like that, the traditional planning that you've seen, as well as just other opportunities where we're going to meet with stakeholders and gather input from the commission. And so just kind of putting that on your radar for right now. You know, it truly is a kind of an exciting process of just being able to kind of hear from the community and allow them to vision and provide direction and kind of see where are we at today, right? In 2025, right? It's, you know, it's been quite a few years since we did the last comprehensive plan. You know, if you have not looked at that comprehensive plan, I still think it's worth your time to maybe take a look at that. I think it will be a document that will prepare you well for participating in this next update. It's going to look a lot different. It's going to feel different, but I think looking at the implementation and some of the recommendation and the public comments, I think helps just provide just some context to like, where were we at when we did that plan and where are we at and what do we start to hear today? And so, just nothing specific in terms of like exact dates or anything like that for this moment, but just wanted to get that out there. You'll start seeing information there about that. So, okay.
And they're done every 10 years or 15? What's the?
You know, it kind of depends. I mean, you know, in the planning world, they talk about best practice, like traditionally is always like try to do it like every 10 or 15 years. I'll just say I think that dynamic's really changing in the planning field because of the fact of just kind of we're in this ever-changing world that seems to be changing a lot faster. And it's like, you know, are these things that we should be doing differently? And I think that's part of this process that we're engaging this time around is, are there going to be, or could there be recommendations within the plan that talk about, you know, touch bases every 5 years or something along those lines? I don't know, but I mean, you want to usually do them about every 10 to 15 years. You want to keep them, you know, a lot changes in that time. And, you know, our original intent was we were going to do this in 2020. And we knew that would be a very difficult time to engage the public and really have, you know, a document that came out of it that we could, you know, rest our decisions on as we move forward throughout. And so we let that be, and here we are. It's going. So yeah, I think, you know, just be ready to be involved, you know, and to provide input. And like I said, to get the word out, like, you know, all of you travel in all different circles, and we just, you know, you try to get as many people involved in the process to really hear public comment and understand what's actually going on and what people think are important. So if we just get the same exact people that show up to, you know, the first meeting, we never hear from the rest of the group and, you know, the rest of the city and the rest of the community. So, but yeah, that's all I wanted to put out there. And so I look forward to your participation, a lot of it. So,
Derek,
yeah.
I have a question, or maybe this might be better later when we get into the details of it. We have one representative of the commission will be on this study on what, I don't know what you would call it, steering committee, I guess. Will the other members of the commission be able to attend meetings?
Yeah, so the steering committee meetings are really like they're kind of, think of it truly to steer the project and help provide like a smaller group of people to give us direction and things. This board is going to be heavily involved not only in meetings right here like this, but you know, if they want to attend meetings, I mean, they're public meetings, so they'll be open to the public to, you know, be there and listen in and things, but it's not going to be direct participation necessarily from every member. What I would recommend this group is find someone who can make steering committee meetings and attend the meetings and participate. You're not going to make everyone, but you know, that you can be there to provide that kind of direct conduit to this group and this body and provide updates and information. Obviously you still have staff here. It's not like we're not going to help you with that. but also too, there's gonna be a lot of opportunity for members of this board to participate. I mean, you're one of the main boards that's gonna be looking at this plan, so. Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay, we'll go to disclosures, ex parte communications and potential conflicts of interest. Anybody got any?
I do on item 8A, I will be recusing myself. Because I am the applicant or the applicant's representative.
Very good. When we adjourn, you can vacate. All right, any others? Any current planning projects? Old business? Under new business, we have the City of Laramie Planning Commission designating use of discretionary funds appropriated by the governing body for a governmental business purpose. Joe, take it away.
Honorable Chair Commission, before you have a resolution to allocate funds for some outreach. If y'all remember, at the beginning of last fiscal year, the city council allocated funds to all boards and commissions in order to facilitate outreach. We still have quite a few of that funding left over. If you've seen us out and about, you've seen tents and other materials that did come from that funding source and that we've been using quite extensively since then. But we are back here asking to use the rest of that funding, especially since we are running up on the end of the year now. I did leave a paper for an amendment on this on Title A. We are recommending instead of using the $200 or $300 funds that are in there, using all the rest of them. And this is how the amendment reads. If you all wish, allocate the remaining planning commission discretionary funds for fiscal year 2024, which equals $1,804.57 towards the purchase of branding and outreach materials for the support of the comprehensive plan update. Materials may include signs, those should probably just be signs, branded table covering, banner, and other promotional items to be used at upcoming outreach events, including the Blue Devils performance, the downtown Laramie or downtown farmers market, WildTech events, and other community touch points to raise awareness and encourage public participation in the planning process. Part of this amendment that we are recommending is because we're trying to do a more focused branding outreach for the comprehensive plan, which is kind of going to include some specific items kind of to be determined in the near future. But yeah, and I stand here for questions if there are any, Chair.
Good, Don.
So Joe, how do we do this? Are we substituting what you handed out, for A in the resolution, the existing resolution that was sent out?
Chair, through you, that is what we were asking.
So I'm just not sure how we do that since it's a second item on the agenda, since it's a subsequent item on the agenda.
What you would have to do is vote on a motion to amend
Okay.
the resolution, and then you can vote on the amended resolution. Sorry, Chair, through you.
All right. My question is, you are going to do the farmers market again?
Yeah, we found that was very successful last year. It was a good opportunity to get
Thought
out
it was
in
too.
the community and talk with folks and let them know about projects that were coming up. And so we do plan on doing that.
More ice next time.
More ice. It was pretty warm last time.
Yeah. And I saw Emma was at the car show with the comprehensive plan, full board layout. Is that something else you're going to have at the farmers market?
Chair, there are a lot of planning projects going on right now. So she was there with some of the comprehensive plan stuff, some of the reconnecting community stuff, some of the transit plan stuff. Am I missing? Okay.
She had
and
a full spread.
Yeah, we have the First Street redesign project going on. We have the Third Street art project going on. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of opportunities for outreach. And so
Is
what
the
we are
tent-
able to include is somewhat limited to space.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think your tent's big enough.
Yeah. So we will try to be cued into what we need to bring at what time before people to not exhaust them.
Okay, very good. Anybody else?
I have one quick
Janet?
question. It's fiscal year 2024, so that's been held in reserve since 2024, and it's not 2025?
I believe that fiscal year 2024 ends this month. What do you,
In his item A that we're substituting for what was in the initial resolution, it says allocate the remaining planning commission discretionary funds from fiscal year 2024. I just want to clarify it's
Oh,
2024 and not 2025.
Because Chair, it actually should be 2025 because 2025 runs from, it ends at the end of this
That's
month.
what I thought.
Yeah, and so,
I would draw up.
and then 2026 starts in the middle of 2025, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's kind of a joke, but it's true. That's all right. Good catch.
Hey, any other questions? Donald?
Joe, have you thought of, I don't know how much traffic the table gets. It sounds like it gets plenty of traffic. But is there any merit in having, to use a portion of that money, obviously not the whole thing, for freebies to give away to people to raise their awareness of like planning, like a bag with the current city layout, planned city layout or something like that?
Chair, through you. So part of the somewhat ambiguous nature of how this was written was for the comprehensive plan in general and outreach material, which could certainly be used for that if in reference to the comprehensive plan. And so maybe not specifically to, let's say, this variance tonight, we wouldn't be handing out anything, but related to the comprehensive plan, correct?
Okay.
Well, I think go ahead, Derek.
Yeah, Chair, I think just to member O'Toole's comment, like in the past, when we've done a comprehensive plan, we've done things like, pens and stickers and buttons and like you could do bags, like any type of promotional, you could make maps and like hand maps out to people. Like there's a lot of, and that's kind of why we wrote it that way, is our consultant will provide us some ideas and use things that maybe have got people to engage more. Even more recently, they even hand out like thumb drives with the old plan and some information about like, that might be pertinent to them for participation. And so there's a lot of ways we can go with this. And that's why we wrote it that way, just to give ourselves some flexibility.
And I would suspect if we, as a group, had some bright ideas of branding of things, we can let you know and at a meeting commented some ideas.
Yeah, I mean, if there's something you think that could be helpful, just shoot us an email, and then also your steering committee appointment can funnel that through them, or you can just call us up. So yeah.
One other question. So this amount, there's other funds that are put towards promotional materials for the comprehensive plan. Like that's not the whole pot of money, hopefully. This is just to supplement what you already have or the consultant has set aside or something like that, right?
Chair, through you. We saw this as an opportunity to use the remaining money towards promotion. We do have a budget. It's part of our consulting budget, but it's a way to maybe do a little bit more,
Sure.
Do that outreach that wasn't in the funding scope. And so this kind of is that gap potentially.
Yep, makes sense. Just wanted to clarify.
Just an idea off the top of my head, the First Street redevelopment plan could really use a handout at the farmer's market, because everybody can just go right there and look at it and see what the concept is behind it. So we went to one of those meetings, didn't we? We were at one of those presentations. It was pretty interesting.
Right, and Chair, through you. We've done a lot of outreach to that. The farmers market is certainly a place where it can happen. We're kind of running up towards the design phase of this. The outreach is kind of wrapping up in some ways, but we will be going to city council, showing what the consultants have proposed. But then also, I will just let you know, on that first street meeting, we've sent multiple notices out to everybody within the DC zoning district, as well as people within 300 feet of that, which comes out to more than 300 letters sent out to owners and occupants of sites. And so we are trying our hardest to get people excited, or, you know, to give their opinion in some fashion for that project and all of our projects.
Okay, thank you. We have been presented a motion and wants to go with it.
I'd make a motion
Go ahead.
to amend resolution 2025-03 to
Chair. Can we get a main motion first and then we do the amendment?
Okay, so we'll need to approve the resolution 2025-03 and then amend it.
Correct.
So,
all right, a motion to approve the resolution 2025-03 as presented.
okay,
Second.
all right, we have a second. Now we have the amendment. We do the amendment now, right? Okay. Who will read the amendment?
So I propose we substitute for item A under, now therefore be it resolved. Do I need to read the whole thing?
Yeah.
The item that's on the agenda is 6BII. That cut it.
We should probably just read that full
Okay.
thing, just to substitute.
So in other words, to replace the existing language under A with the following language: allocate the remaining planning commission discretionary fund from financial year 2025 or what was the title? I'm sorry.
It's 25.
Which is $1,804.57 for the purchase of branding and outreach materials to support the comprehensive plan update. Materials may include signs, branding table, covering, banner, and other promotional items to be used at upcoming outreach events, including the Blue Devils performance, the Downtown Farmers Market, biotech events, and other community touch points to raise awareness and encourage public participation in the planning process.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We're good. All those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good. The amendment has passed. Now all those in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Is that correct, clerk?
Correct.
Okay. Next item of business. We have the addition to the agenda. Recommended a resolution through 2025-04.
Afternoon, Honorable Chair and Planning Commission. So kind of as discussed earlier, this will enable you to appoint someone to that Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee that can really serve as the liaison. There would be other opportunities for stakeholder engagement as discussed, and those will be released as they get scheduled. So far, what's been scheduled is just kind of that main kickoff in June 23rd, 24th, and 25th, when the consultants will be in town for the first time. The first steering committee meeting will be held on June 24th, which is a Tuesday, from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at the Laramie Recreation Center front room. All of the steering committee meetings have not been planned out yet, so it may not always occur on a Tuesday, but they'll likely be around once a month, and that will be discussed more and sent out as we look at other people's availability. And yeah, with that, I will go ahead and take any questions. Happy to answer any as we get this kicked off.
How many people are on the steering committee? What's the target number?
Yeah, so currently we are at 27.
That's scary.
I'd hate to interject, but an old saying comes to mind. In all the parks in all the cities, there are no statues to committees.
That's very true. And what is nice is that our consulting group also does facilitation, and so they will be helping to facilitate those meetings to make sure that different groups have appropriate amount of time to share. And if one person's trying to monopolize, to help curtail that. We also expect that throughout the process, not all 27 will stick with it as well.
What is the representation in 27? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, so we went ahead and sent out the application, call for applications. We have quite a few from the development committee. We have one from financial. We have some from UW. I'm trying to think who else. So it was kind of a mixed bag.
I mean, general citizenry, you've got, I mean, really, it's a pretty dynamic group of artists. I mean, like that's what you're trying to get with a comprehensive plan is a pretty dynamic group of people. It's pretty wide ranging. Business owners, people that work in government, people that, you know, outdoor interest, not outdoor interest. I mean, like the kind of the questions in the proposal or the request to be on a steering committee, you know, tried to gather like, why do you even want to do something like this? And it was pretty wide ranging, which is what we're trying to get to. I'll speak to, we recognize that that is a fairly large number. We do believe that there's going to be some fluctuation. We traditionally, when we do this, we lose a lot of people really fast sometimes. It's just hard for them to commit and they maybe decide that this isn't right for them. We want to give us some flexibility, but also, you know, we will be prepared if we need to do things to make sure that the steering committee is effective, because that's ultimately what we want it to be, right? And so there's methods to break up the group in ways to get things done. So, you know, we anticipate we might have to do that. So
The only thing I'd add too is like along with Planning Commission, we're asking for a representative from City Council, and then someone from the Environmental Advisory Committee was also selected. And that is part of the total 27.
Chris, you first.
Does this comprehensive plan organization, does it peel off into subgroups or subtopics, kind of like what we did for what was done for the Casper Aquifer Protection Plan? You know, there were, or is it just the steering committee that is working, you know, the body of discussion?
There will be, Chair through you, there will be extensive outreach. There's likely that some main topics will come up through the process. We've selected Clariana as the consulting group, and they will really help guide and shape what they kind of see best. I will also cede to Derek and Joseph since they've had more experience with comprehensive plans, but the steering committee is mainly there to kind of provide an overarching view. They won't be the only group contributing and making suggestions to the comprehensive plan.
Is it a consensus-based process, or how do those recommendations trickle down into action with such a group that size?
yeah, I mean, I think, you know, with a steering committee, unlikely you will all agree. I'd love it, but I don't think that's going to happen. But no, in all seriousness, I think ultimately what it'll come down to is the steering committee. We hope that will provide us main direction. It's not going to ever be full consensus, but I think that it'll be general consensus that we're going in the right way. And really, the steering committee helps us that, like, let's say we have a public event and we have a handful of comments that we received, right? And our consultants provide to us and say, it looks like you had these top 3 topical issues of the environment, housing, and development. I don't know, you know, it's right, super generic. But, and the steering committee goes, I feel like these comments weren't really talking about development, but more about development standards. The steering committee is there to help make sure that we are actually hearing what's actually being said, because sometimes, right, we're in the professional planning world, we're dealing with this day to day, are the lay people that may be attending our public meetings, maybe telling us something in a way that maybe we're just not picking up on it. That's helpful for us. But also out of the steering committee by representing some of your groups. And this kind of goes to Member Moody's comment of like, we may ask you to break out into, maybe you guys may have on that within this totality some expertise in certain areas. We may help you lead some of the direction and guidance in some of those areas, and provide some feedback to our consultants as citizens of our community to make sure that we're on the right track. And sometimes there's the steering committee though plays a role more than just like, yeah, you're meeting the consensus of what we're hearing, but also to providing us guidance in the areas in which you may be involved in. You may know things that we just simply don't know. Like I'm not involved in every organization in the community. I'm not friends with every single person in the community. And so you may be able to say, hey, we're talking about finances and it seems like we need to get in front of some of the financial institutions or something. We may have a member that may help us be able to do that. And that's kind of what the steering committee does, provides support where needed, provides input. And ultimately from like the steering committee, usually like at the very culmination is we do like the steering committee to kind of vote and be like, yeah, I think the draft plan that you have here, we'd like it to move forward to the planning commission and city council for eventual approval. And probably too, steering committee members will get involved in some of those work sessions and things to provide context to all the things that we present you so that we're not taking up this body's work, time every single month, as well as city councils. And so the last thing I would say to that is a lot of times these steering committees are a little bit dynamic in a comprehensive planning process, and we use our consultants to help us and their facilitators to help us identify how to best be effective. So sometimes they do take a little bit different of a shape. Like that's what I'm describing as a more standard approach, but they may see positives out of the steering committee members that we have and try to use your expertise to really create a good plan, because that's ultimately what we're trying to do is create a plan that represents the community, lays that vision out and puts that down on paper so that the future the future us, the future councils know that direction and understand that direction for the future, right? And so I've seen consultants get creative with steering committees and tap into the knowledge centers that we bring together and do really cool things. And sometimes, steering committee members may be involved in some of our public outreach too. We're going to invite those steering committee members to come and say, hey, we would love for at least 3 of you to be there to hear those public comments, to physically be there representing the community. And so we try to be dynamic a little bit too and use you to the best of our ability to get a good plan. So
Just a technical question. Would it be possible to appoint not only a member, but an alternate? Chris, you're asking somebody to go to 12 to 18 meetings and see if there's an alternate that would be able, if the regular commission member can't make it, another one of us could go fill in.
Chair, through you, that would be acceptable. I know we have a couple other groups like ASUW from the university where based on their school year, they're going to have to trade in a new member at some point. And so kind of having more of, a planning commission seat, but it would still be helpful to at least have one point person and then, as you were saying, a secondary person.
Okay, the other concern I have is after our experience with the stormwater committee, basically the consultant already had their plan. So we went to a lot of meetings where we were pretty much, listened to. Gratefully, we were listened to, but I don't think it had anything to do with what the final outcome was. So, I think that would be a reservation on my part. It's too big a project to not have some preconceived notion before you go into it. So, if the steering committee is actually going to be listen to would be an interesting object.
Yeah, chair through you, with the comprehensive plan, it really is rooted in the community. And so even at the Wyotech Car Show engagement, they're starting out very broad based with just what they had at that engagement was a big map of Laramie and stickers for places you love, places you don't like, places you feel comfortable in, where you work, where you live, to start getting a very preliminary overall idea of Laramie. So I will say it's starting out extremely broad and will slowly narrow in scope as we get feedback from the steering committee and from those public engagements.
All right, thank you, sir. We discuss it amongst ourselves here. Anybody got any more questions for Emma?
Not a question, but I do want to echo what you said in that having worked at the University of Wyoming for 35 years, and I've been on a lot of committees, a lot of these are guided processes. So, and I accept this may not be like that, but the stormwater focus group was an example of how to waste people's time, because it was led by someone I would define as a statistician, and that is someone very skilled in drawing a linear line from an unwarranted assumption to a foregone conclusion. And so I hope this is not that, but this is an important process. So I just hope that the facilitators for this can give us kind of some of the support beams, but not have the entire building built before we enter the process.
Well, are there any volunteers or should we draw straws?
Is anyone interested?
I would be interested in doing it, but I have a problem right now. I am also a chief election judge and I'm waiting for Kayla, the county clerk, to come up with her steering committee to plan the 2026 election. And that may not be as lugubrious a process as the comprehensive plan. It's, we're following state statute, and a big part is figuring out how to follow state statute since there's been a lot of changes. So I might be interested in it, but I would definitely want, if I were to do it, want an alternate.
I'm also interested. I also wondered, Sharon has a very good head on her shoulders coming at things from a legal standpoint, and I would really like to, do we have to decide this now?
I mean, here's what I would say is we've got, steering committee meeting coming up at the end of the month that we're going to try to see if it works for people's schedule that Emma mentioned. If you want someone to go to that and then you want to make a final appointment at a different time, that's probably fine. I mean, we'd like somebody onboarded as quickly as possible, just then so we can, be consistent with somebody is all. But this is a pretty good group of people here. I think you all communicate well, so I trust your decision making. And if you want to appoint someone to go to this first meeting and then wait for, to see if Sharon has interest or anyone else has interest, or John is not at the meeting tonight too, but we could do that.
Or if people wanted to go to that first meeting just to kind of see how it puts together and then decide afterwards, whether a person really wants to get involved in it or someone is really sold on doing it. I don't know. So,
Yeah, I mean,
open.
Go ahead, Don.
So I'm interested. I would be happy to serve as an alternate or as a primary, whatever. I mean, it might be more useful for you to serve as primary and for me to be an alternate, unless there are other folks.
What about you, Janice? Can I drag you in here by the heels or something? Look at the stunned look on her face.
No, I don't want to step on anyone else's toes.
No,
I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of interest, so I'm happy to step back. I mean, yeah. Sounds like you all are very passionate.
Should have seen the look on her face.
No, I'm like, hey, you guys.
I'm not really committed. I have a lot of pressing things on my plate right now, but they generally ease up after July. The election thing is something that, is going to probably get very intense the closer we get to the election. Seeing as elections tend to do that, but I'm sure I'm going to make lots of people mad on that body. Well, that's part of the job, I guess.
I do one more question about the process.
Sure.
So, the person who's appointed is representing the planning commission, right? They're not like a city, citizen, right? But I guess, so do we then in turn have monthly meetings to discuss what's taking place and how do we all, it's our representative, not our, so I assume there's something like that. I'm not sure. Like, again, I'm not totally familiar with the process that you're doing.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's a great question. So, one, as a representative planning commission, one, we want you to be that kind of conduit directly to your other board members in terms of like what's happening at these steering committee meetings. I mean, we anticipate we'll be providing updates and things, but we want you also, whoever gets appointed, to be able to provide that input. And I don't know if you've ever seen like the city council when they provide a liaison report to the different boards and commissions they sit on. Staff one isn't presenting, but let's just say for this instance, we'll get up and say, hey, we had a couple outreach meetings this last month. Right now we're working on chapters 1 and 2. Chapters 1 and 2 are just background and I don't know, analysis or something, something basic. And then, we may say, at the steering committee meeting, we really focused on additional public outreach events as well as some of the drafting of the first 2 chapters. Let's say one of the members, whoever's appointed may interject and say, yes, just so you know, we're going to be doing we really felt some sort of online meeting was going to be really important for people that can't get out of their houses. And we didn't mention that, right? Like we glossed over it, but you felt it was important. But then also too, let's say a topic came up related to something that's definitely like planning commission related. So some of the things like zoning, right? Conditional use processes, development processes. You as a member of the planning commission may recommend, hey, we're having some really in-depth conversations. This might be worthwhile for us as a body maybe to set a meeting where you then could bring that to the group, because we'll try to help you identify that. We're here to help you, but also you guys have different perspectives. You're a body that's running outside of us as staff, and we want you to be able to provide that guidance to us where you say, I think it's time we probably should have a work session on the comp plan on these major topics so that when I go back to the next steering committee meeting, I can provide good guidance and direction that we believe that the board agrees with. Or a lot of times what happens at these meetings is there might be something that they're really curious. Like, I wonder what the opinion of the planning commission who sees a lot of these types of issues come before them, or the same for city council, that comes before city council. Like, do they have a strong opinion on the direction of where this might go? And that allows us that ability to start bringing you in. But then also when that person goes back to the steering committee, they really can represent well the position of the planning commission. They're not voting or anything. That happens here. That's always going to happen up here. But it's that real like representation. They're like, hey, like I'm going to be paying attention through this whole process and try to put us in a good position to have a good plan brought before planning commission that you think your fellow body can get behind, right? So
Like signs or something like that. Billboards.
Don't bring it up. We got more. Right.
maybe
More signs to come. All right, so if it looks like you and me, all right, we have to have a recommended motion, and all right, I would take it to start at least for the first meeting and see where it's going to go, and you would be named the alternate. I would like to go through with it and take it through to the end, just because I'm that kind of guy, but I would, life happens and I wanna make sure there's a designated alternate.
I'd be
for it.
happy with that. I
Okay,
can't meet at the meeting in whatever it is, 25th of June, because for my many sins, I have to go to Pittsburgh.
oh my. I'm sorry to hear that.
I accept condolences from anybody else.
So when's this first meeting?
Speaker, I'm not sure how much my voice carries. Tuesday, June 24th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at the Laramie Recreation Center.
Okay,
So do you need a motion for the,
yeah, there's a recommended motion. If somebody would read that.
Oh, okay, I move to approve, resolution 2025-04, appointing planning commission member, Tom Matamore, and alternative, Donald Lunny,
Donald Fool.
Donald O'Toole, I'm sorry.
I can't even play the mandolin.
To the comprehensive plan 2045 steering committee.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. It's me and you, Don.
Suzuki, keep playing with everything.
Okay, now, I believe we have come to an end. Let me just double check. Oh, we have 6B. Oh, that's the minutes. I'm sorry. That's the minutes from the last one. Any long-range planning projects? Have we got? I think that's it. Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn and reconvene as support of adjustment.
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, hit the road, Jack. Gee, how long have I been here? Date doesn't somehow rhyme.
At least he didn't call you Donald Lunny. Is Lunny dead?
No.
Oh, okay. I feel better now.
Okay, we'll call this meeting of the Board of Adjustment to order. Do we need another roll? Okay, Joe, it's all yours.
Honorable Chair Commission, today I have before you a variance that. Yeah, Chair Commission, we do need to swear in witnesses for the
Okay.
Board of Appeals if.
Jake, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Chair, I do.
Okay, by me.
Thank you. Chair Commission, today we have before you a variance that actually all of you are familiar with. This is a variance for an EMC at 525 East Grand Avenue, which is known as the Albany County Courthouse. This was a variance that was brought before you all a little over like May of last year, which was approved. However, due to construction timelines, the sign permit was not pulled in time for the variance. Per city code, a variance does need to be pulled within, or a building permit does need to be pulled for a variance within 6 months. This is something that we've come across before in some of these other variances, but that is why you are seeing it again. In addition to that, I do want to point out that I've included the previous design as well as the new design. You will see that they are different. And so that is also up for a consideration in your review. Because all of you all were here for the last one, but it has been a while, I will kind of go over this. I'll try to do it a little bit more expedited, but I do want to make sure that you all understand it, so I will stand for questions afterwards. So on May 13th, 2024, the Laramie Planning Commission, seated as the Board of Adjustments, reviewed variance 2403 requesting relief from the DC zoning district standards for use of an EMC as well as a monument sign height requirement. The board amended the approval and approved the request. I do want to say that I made a mistake here. I said that it was a unanimous 5 A's with 0 absent and 1 recused. That was incorrect. I had looked at the motion to amend and not the actual approval motion. So I will say that there was 4 ayes and 1 nay during that and 1 recused. So as I have already said, a building permit does need to be pulled within 6 months of the approval date. This did not occur, and so that is why this is before you again today. As with last time, EMCs are not permitted within the downtown commercial zoning district. I've included a zoning map in here for you guys to review, but you will see that this is somewhat of a unique circumstance in the fact that this property is primarily surrounded by B2 zoning. Within the B2 zoning district, it is allowed to have EMCs, whereas in the DC zoning district, it is not. That is primarily due to the fact of the DC zoning district kind of looking at kind of a downtown core and a like historic somewhat preservation district, although not specifically that. This is on the very farthest edge of that district, and actually right across the street from it, we do have B2 zoning district where a EMC is permitted. Within your packet, I have included the standards for the EMC within the B2 zoning district and monument sign requirements in the B2 zoning district for your review, so that you guys can compare the two. There is another amendment on here that I did not catch the first time, but that was brought to my attention. Luckily, I did say that it was around 70 square feet of display area. However, the width and height that are listed there do not actually equate to around 70 square feet. So that will be something that you guys may want to check with the applicant about. I did not catch that until today when it was brought to my attention. As with all variances, let me go back a little bit. Additionally, in the previous approval, as I said, there was an amendment to vertical light. I did want to point out the section of code that directly relates to EMCs and light production at all. And so I included that within your packet as well. There is a kind of calculation that we use for permittable light for a certain size of sign. As with all variances, there are required findings of fact in order to approve. All findings of fact will need to be met in order to to vote for approval. Primarily, the special condition here is that it is located on a state highway directly across from a zoning district that would permit this sort of signage on it. It's got a fairly large building screening it from a residential zoning district, although a very small portion of that residential zoning district is over there. And also, this is the only use on an entire city block over there. The special circumstances that would deprive the applicant of reasonable use of such land or building is that, generally speaking, signage is a permitted use on every location. The associated uses with governmental functions are quite broad. And so allowing some EMC allows them a lot more variety in what they can actually bring, the messaging that they can bring that is associated with their use. I do want to bring to your attention how I worded this. I said convey both commercial and non-commercial messages related to the property use. This is related to the use of the property, which is governmental, but it's not limiting them in what they can say other than has to be associated with their use. Commercial and non-commercial wording there is not to say, yes, we're allowing you to have something for Buc-ee's, for example, on your sign. Directly related to the use of the property, which is governmental. So that is part of this recommendation to approve. The next section is not applicable because there's neither solar nor wind power that are associated with this project. This does seem like it is the minimum adjustment needed in order to accomplish the purpose. The square footage that was set on the plans versus the actual size are different, but if the square footage is any indicator, it is slightly smaller than the previous proposed sign. Granting this variance is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the code and will not be injurious to the neighborhood or otherwise detrimental to public welfare. Planning staff nor any other staff that reviewed this believe that it would be injurious to public welfare, or at least did not bring it up as a concern. This is at the farther extremities of the DC zoning district and is across from a zoning district where this would be permitted. So being injurious to the neighborhood does not seem likely. And will this alter the essential character of the neighborhood or district? The Planning Commission does not believe so, due to the fact that it is on a state highway and across from a zoning district where this would be allowed. Legal notice was published in the Laramie Boomerang on May 24th, 2025. Letters were sent to surrounding property owners within 300 feet of the subject property on May 24th, 2025, and staff has received no comments. I do want to point out that the conditions on here are slightly different. The previous amendment was not included in this conditions. However, I did include the section related to light production in there for all y'all's review. I did, however, put in there the purpose of the sign shall only be for the commercial and non-commercial messaging pertinent to the use of the property on which it is displayed. That comes back to that previous wording that I had before, so that it's very clear that that it is in relation to county governance, that this sign is there. Kind of wrapping this up, I do want to point out that variants do require, for approval of a variance, it does require the majority of the whole body. In this case, it does require 4 positive votes. Obviously, we are missing some folks today, but that just want to make sure for logistics sake that I state that. And at that, I stand for questions.
Chris, go ahead.
So the idea of related to the property's use, is that something that really should be codified rather than part of a variance? I mean, it seems pretty important to restrict it, an EMC to the property use and how you define a particular, if it's a commercial business in DC, which I would assume if we approve this are going to be quite interested in doing the same sort of thing. Any comments on difference between defining property use in a variance as opposed to waiting to codify it in code?
Chair, through you. I think that there's always opportunities to improve our code, whether it's sign or otherwise. I will point out that at the very beginning of the packet, I refer to on-premise electronic messaging centers. That on-premise or off-premise category within our sign code does look at the use of the property. And so like off-premise signage, since it's fresh in everybody's mind, a billboard is considered off-premise signage. Something that says, you know, car wash this way is an off-premise signage. My wording is slightly different because we're trying to work on some of our language in our code. How do we improve it? But it is somewhat codified already, just maybe not in those exact terms.
So say on premise sort of is.
It implies the same thing. Yeah.
Donald, you got anything?
So, and maybe this question is better for Jake, but these will just be static text signs, maybe with an image that may roll over. They'll not be video.
Chair, through you, I do believe that would be a better question for Jake.
Yeah, Chair, Commissioners, thank you. I believe that is correct. It's not going to be video, and code, I think, prohibits that from happening. It has to stay static for a certain amount of time before it can roll over. So we're not planning on, playing westerns or anything on the billboard. It's supposed to just be static for just public notice messages.
I have a follow-on question to that, because that in the definition 37, it talks actually about that, the the copy versus a changeable copy or animated sign defines those two. So I think what you're describing is just a copy change versus, or sorry, the other type, the changeable copy versus animated. Animated would be turnover versus changeable copy is today we need to announce COVID vaccines, tomorrow we need to announce it's voter election day. Not like today we announce this and then it rolls to this and then it rolls to this.
I believe that is probably, it'll have multiple displays during the day. It won't be one static display all day long. It'll switch. Most likely it'll switch messages throughout the day, but it won't be like each time it switches, it'll switch to another static sign.
I hope it lasts more than 8 seconds.
Yeah, that's what the definition.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it'll probably, I can't speak to that because I don't control that, but I would expect that it would be there for a while, for a minute or so, but.
Donald?
So, and I used to think I was hallucinating because I knew I had seen an electronic sign outside the courthouse. And that was a temporary electronic sign. Am I correct?
Sort of, yes. The temporary signs that have been there in the past, they're like the whiteout message board signs that are,
Right.
yeah, that they pull behind a truck, park, they're on wheels. They put those up every now and again.
Okay.
Yeah, almost every year.
I knew I'd seen them, and then I thought, was I imagining that? But this is going to be substantially larger, and the rationale being it has to be larger for people going the speed limit to be able to read the sign.
I believe it will be larger in part because of the size of the LED panels so you can see the pictures or the drawings that we've provided this time are much more professional looking than what we did before. And that is because we have a sign contractor that developed this for us to make it as close to code or to what this picture represented to what we were planning on installing.
Got it. Okay.
And these dimensions are the correct ones?
They are close, I believe, and I think to, Joseph's point, the one picture shows that there is a square footage of 70.08 square feet.
Yeah, well, the math don't work on
The
that.
math of the overall panel is a little bit bigger than that, and I think that is because there is a like a picture frame around the panels. So the panel illuminated area is 70 square feet, but the overall sign area is a little bit bigger for that to take up the frame.
What's on the reverse side?
The same thing.
It'll,
Eastbound, westbound.
Yeah,
We'll get
yep,
the same-
It's a mirror of, on both sides.
and so that existing stone wall there is gonna have to be, that's what it looks like in your
No, it's
drawing.
gonna stay there. If you look at a few more drawings, it's planning on staying there, and we're gonna put piered foundations in that planter,
Okay,
and then that planter is gonna stay, hopefully, as is.
okay. Anybody else? Donald?
This would be really a super target for vandalism. What?
Potentially, the sheriff's office is there, but it very well could be.
Might make it all. If, do you have any idea, are these ever messed with? I just, cause it's in the downtown, there are on rare occasion drunk people downtown. And I can see this being targeted. So will this be insured or protected in any way? Cause it wouldn't take much.
No, I agree. I have not thought of that. And yeah, it's not been thought about or discussed. So I don't exactly know how I can answer that.
Can it be insured?
Your government self.
I mean, and it's under the property. If there's a property insurance under it, it would fall under the property insurance.
Was there any consideration of turning it off after the bars close? Leave
I
it
don't
on
know
all
if it'll
night?
turn off, but it does have automatic dimmers based on, it's either time or illumination, like sunlight sensors that considerably dim it. And I believe that is controllable as well, where you can lower it as low as you want it to go or turn it off.
Right. And county would be in charge of the sign? Of what goes
Yeah,
on?
specifically, the IT department would be specifically in charge of the operation of that sign.
Stuck here. Are they in the basement like the city's IT department?
No, they're on the other side of the street.
And just back for you, Jake, or for staff. So I've always had a problem with the visual distraction of traffic with, you have 4 cottonwoods sitting there, and when you drive by that, you see something, drive by cottonwoods, you see it, cottonwood, you know, I mean, it's not a clear view through the drive-by of that proposed EOC. And that gives me heartburn, to tell you the truth. And whether, you know, what your guys' thoughts are, the visual distraction element with big trees there.
I agree.
You know, I guess that it's been decided that
I mean, I do think that
there's no significant safety issue associated with this.
I don't believe so. The speed limit is 30 miles an hour. It's not like it's high speed roadway. I do agree that anything that changes or is dynamic is a distraction for drivers. And yeah, point noted, I guess I could say, short of cutting the trees down, that's,
Yeah.
and even when that happens, they'll probably be replaced by different trees.
No, I would not.
So how far do you, I don't know if you know this dimension offhand, how far off the curb will the sign be? I don't, that's like, looks
It's
like
been
30 feet.
It's in the range of 15 to 20 feet. I think the sidewalk is about 8 feet wide there.
Yeah.
and It's about 6 to 8 feet behind there. maybe a
Behind
little
there.
bit more.
Okay, so, okay. I think that's far enough back from the road that probably after the first 6 months, people would just ignore it. All right, I don't know if we should get Joe or Derek back here, but
I wanna talk,
go right ahead.
So, maybe this is for Emma, Joe, so could you talk about the potential precedent that, okay, we've got, it's in DC, it's a prohibited use within that, you know, what would be the special circumstances for this variance that would prevent any other EMC coming into the DC environment downtown? I mean, the comment that this is at the edge of DC, it doesn't carry a lot of weight with me. It is what it is. Yeah, and it was zone DC for a reason. So what are we gonna see a bunch of businesses coming and wanting variance for an EMC with saying we're gonna only have commercial and non-commercial property use messages on our board?
Chair, through you. We take every variance on a case by case basis and analyze it as such. However, there is always the possibility that we will see more. You know, just like anything, kind of an approval does kind of bequeath other people to come out of the woodworks to ask for the same thing. However, I will say this. I would somewhat disagree in that it being on the edge of the zoning district is not a good argument, partially because of the fact that we get to determine where that lies, and where this lies is, one, on a state highway. It's a larger property taking an entire city block essentially, and it is across from a zoning district where it is applicable, where it is allowed. And so as far as precedence goes, this is a different application than you would see from something than, let's say, like the Still. Don't usually like to pull out specific properties, but that's one that I think we all know. And so I don't see it as apples to apples specifically.
Would there, always be, there's gonna be a boundary between DC and B2 or whatever it is adjacent to? I mean, that adjacent to occurs,
Right.
throughout the edge of the DC bound.
Correct. And rezoning of properties is possible as well, taking it out of the DC. I think that there were certain reasons why we put this within the DC. One is the historic nature of the property, but then also, kind of continuing a district and a certain feel of a district. And so,
Well, I mean, how in harmony is an EMC for an old stone courthouse building that has a historical history and designation? Probably. I mean, it doesn't seem like an EMC is very harmonious to that property.
right. And Chair, through you, apologies.
No, go ahead.
Part of historic preservation and stuff isn't completely keeping something untouched necessarily, but this is a sign. This isn't a part of the specific building that we are trying to protect. This is an accessory to that building, and I think that as you look at the designs here, you'll see that compared to certainly the first one that you all saw, they were trying to make this a lot more compatible through like materials and bases that look relatively similar. um, you know, was a EMC a option for a sign when the courthouse was built? I agree with you. Absolutely not. That was not an option there at that time. But
So we're tasked with preserving historic aesthetics.
right, the feel of the district certainly. But that is part of what we're looking at, and how does the neighborhood or the district feel when that is changed? And I think partially because of where it is located on Grand Avenue, it would not be injurious to, let's say, what we consider the core of downtown, right? Second and Grand, which would be the major portion that we all think of when we think of downtown.
If we were to rezone that block in the comprehensive plan, what sort of zoning option might be? I mean, for that block to be DC, I don't see much into government to govern the county government building.
Right.
And quite different. Is there any other options for rezoning that property?
So generally when we rezone, we do try to create a like zoning district. So the one that would come to my mind would be B2. We have not discussed that at all in our office, is rezoning. It's certainly a possibility. There are other things that come with that, other standards that may not work for the county. I'll just say, parking standards within the DC zoning district are fairly relaxed. That would be something that would impact the county building pretty significantly if they suddenly have to bring in more parking for their use of the property. So rezoning is a possibility, or the suggestion of rezoning within the comp plan, because I do want to remind you, the comp plan won't officially change things like zoning. It will make a recommendation that we'd have to go through a rezoning process, but it's within the realm of possibilities, certainly. Though I do not know if we.
Do you want to go down?
Department would recommend approval.
I want to go back to the precedent issue. I thought Lamar's argument was specious that it set a precedent for them. The last time around, I think the difference between a monument sign and a sign 40 feet up in the air is, apples and oranges. So I thought that was specious. My feeling is this expands so the EMCs we're used to are like Dairy Queen and the others, which are relatively small. I think they're 24 square feet is the code for them. This one is almost triple that. And what about the other businesses on Grand? I mean, could they request a variance for larger signs and use this as a precedent? Now, I'm not a big one on precedents. I think every case should be looked at on its own. But would we be facing that discussion in the future?
Chair, the answer is potentially yes. I'm speculating here to some extent. Within our code, it does have a provision for larger EMCs related to its proximity to the state highway. However, it's not specific about how large that sign could be.
So it's a case by case basis.
The case by case basis.
Right.
The size of this is a fairly reasonable thing to, decide to look at on its own merits. Is this something that you all feel is an appropriate size or not? But whether it is or not, this is what they are proposing at this moment. It is similar to the previous one, except for more in line design wise with what the materials are on site. The size of the EMC is it's up to y'all's discretion on.
Donald, you?
So I guess This is a big sign. If you haven't looked at the image of the sign, there's a diagrammatic person standing beside the sign, and it gives you a sense of, which I hadn't noticed until just a few minutes ago, which gives you a sense of what a prominent feature it is. I mean, personally, I think the county needs a way to get its messaging out to the community, and so I support this, and I support having a sign of this size. But I also recognize that once we do this, I would guess within 5 years, we're going to see a bunch of signs on Grand Avenue this big. Because if we turn them down, I can see a lawyer making the case, well, what's the difference? We're selling a really good car wash here. And that's really important. People need clean cars. And why is that more important than people getting vaccinated or voting? And I think that may be very hard to defend in court. But there's no way the sign could be made smaller and still be effective. Does it just come in this one size?
That's a
Jake?
question for the applicant.
Sure. No, I don't believe this is one panel. I think it's like,
Oh, it's units.
it's single squares, and I don't know, this probably isn't right, but let's say it's like a whole bunch of 2 foot by 2 foot squares cobbled together. So I don't exactly know what the size reduction could be, like the final size, or how that is broken out into those panels.
So how did you come up with the decision that it had to be approximately 70 square feet? What's that based on?
That's based on the desire from the commissioners and the IT department.
Because the temporary sign that's there, the kind of road hole sign, I mean, those are short signs, but I never had trouble reading them unless you plan on having a lot more text in the sign.
Well, it will have more text than that sign probably, because that has like 3 lines for
Right.
per word.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think your point is well taken, though. I mean, how much text do you want to put on this sign? And if you have to read a lot of lines of text, is that really a good idea for drivers down the road? So maybe it is a function of there's a place for the sign, but maybe the size is unnecessary because typically it's like sound bites, right? It's like COVID vaccine, February 13th. It's not like, and if you have health insurance, you can use it, and if you use Medicaid, just, right? I mean, those are details to call, and find out about. So
And if you're one of those unlucky Americans who's not insured, you're SOL, but that's in really small font.
Right. So you have to get out of your car to read that. But I think that, would there be a consideration for that?
In longer, it's sort of a general discussion. The point of the sign is to distract drivers as they go down Grand and get information out there. Now you call it a state highway, but Grand Avenue, in my mind, is not a state highway. It's a fairly narrow thoroughfare that takes you into downtown and out to other parts of East Laramie. So, and yet Cottonwoods, it's designed to distract drivers coming into the guts of Laramie quite quickly within a block. Why couldn't the sign be, if you're just looking to get county information to people, put it on the north side of the courthouse.
So,
And I mean, that's the new front of the courthouse. It doesn't get the traffic warrant, obviously, but it also isn't distracting drivers going down Grand Avenue, which is a fairly narrow street. Anyway,
so just so I'm clear on where the discussion is headed, is it the height of the sign that is troubling more than the width? I mean, it is going to be 11 feet off the ground, the top of it. Is that what seems to be the problem?
to me, it's the overall size of the sign and the likelihood we're gonna see a bunch more signs like this in the next few years. Because once we have this precedent, we might turn them down as a committee, but then if we're dealing with a commercial company with an aggressive lawyer like Lamar, I can see this going to court, costing money and losing. And we're going to see a proliferation of signs on ground of this size. And I don't mind there being signs. I would just like them to be smaller if it's possible. And if they're going to be, if they can meet the intended purpose of getting a message out to the public. It is important that the county can get out messages about voting, vaccines, that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, and when are the county commission meetings? When are the county commission work sessions?
Right.
I mean, that's published in a newspaper, but it's a newspaper nobody gets anymore. So, question for the applicant would be, I know you didn't design the sign and didn't design the size of the electronics in it. Would it be possible to, what I'm thinking is to postpone this and see if there's a possibility of reducing the height of the sign? I don't think 8 feet is that.
No, I
Like
think,
9 foot 1, but with the border on it and stuff, the actual message is only going to be in about an 8 foot length. So it's like a job sign on a construction site. So,
Correct.
you
yeah,
know,
Chair, I mean, if you have a desired size that you think would be appropriate, I'm, willing to take that back and run it through and I can get some, I can have our sign contractor put some like words up on this so that it's a little bit more, it demonstrates the size of the text, how many words could go on the text.
I would like to, if it's the will of the rest of the commission and see what your IT guys, I don't want to tell you I don't think we should be telling you what size the sign should be. You're requesting the variance, but the general consensus of opinion seems to be it's too big. All right, so can they come up with a plan that reduces the height of it? What do you think, Derek? Is that unreasonable for us to ask? Or Joe, that's yours.
Chair, you are certainly allowed to table this if you want and have the applicant bring it back before you with maybe a design that is more in line with what you said, whether it's smaller or, less distracting, maybe longer frame time on each one. That is part of a variance, as you guys can create conditions. However, I would highly recommend kind of giving the applicant some very specific instructions on what you all are seeing or what you all would be more okay with so that they can go to their contractor and bring those forward. You can also, this is not something that I would suggest, especially considering that, Jake is not the one who designed this and there would need to be input, but you can also, as a condition, say it can be no larger than X square footage. That is also a possibility. But again, I think that we should give Jake and the consultants very specific instructions on what you all want to see so that they can bring back something that is good within the sign making world to get their point across.
All right, well, okay, we can go into sign business here.
Perhaps I could ask some questions.
Sure.
And that might help me give something better that the commission might think
Well,
about.
to express my feeling on the whole thing or my thoughts on it. It isn't a matter of the width of the sign. I don't think that's a problem. I think the big problem is the height of the sign.
So is it the height of the display or the overall height from like the concrete around it? Like if we took the planter and just shoved it right on the ground.
then you wouldn't be able to read the bottom
correct.
part. All right, it
Correct.
has
It
to
would
be
a
up,
little lower.
but I was just, if you can, where's the one with your measurements here? Your dimensions,
7 feet 9 inches.
okay. From the
Is
bottom
that-
of the sign to the top of the sign?
Correct.
You have the display area.
Okay, so I've built a lot of job signs over the years for construction sites, and you can put a lot of information on a 4x8. And if you've got an electronic message sign, you can get an awful lot of information in that, in what, 32 square feet. Now, I realize you probably want to do more than that, have enough room for there. I'm thinking perhaps 5x9 instead of I don't know how those blocks come in depending on what they measure out to, but it looks like they come in odd numbers. They're not even 1 foot dimensions, just from the way it's, just from what we've heard from Lamar and on this sign. What is the idea of about a 5x9?
That sounds about right to me.
What
A
do you
shorter sign.
It's a heck of a lot better, 45.
Jana, what are your thoughts on it?
I think it's better for sure. I mean, my concern here, and I guess I think it is that if we are giving specifications like this, we can't later change those specifications.
Right.
So I think we need to agree collectively that that is acceptable or not acceptable. But I think it's not fair to say, yeah, that's acceptable, but it's not next month. So I'm treading lightly on that because I want to make sure we're all.
Well, that's why I was reluctant to give dimensions on it, but
So what perhaps, and I don't know if I like this because I don't know exactly like what the dimensions of these are, but perhaps the commission could say, no larger than, 45 square feet with a height no higher than 5 feet or something like that.
I could see going to 7,
I can take this back to the sign guy and say, this is what we got to meet. If it's smaller, it has to be smaller, or however it works out.
So then we would.
If this dimension or if this overall sign is not palatable, then, I would prefer to bring something back, or you just approve it with conditions that it's significantly smaller.
That was my next
Yeah.
question for the clerk. How do we go about putting a condition in here? Can we approve it with an additional, or Joe, that might be best for you, with an additional condition?
So let me go over what I'm hearing from y'all first before I answer that. Are you guys looking at approving this variance with a condition of the
Size.
this? Okay, so
I don't agree with that because
okay.
I'm not happy with this. I'm very conflicted with. Now, if we decide that you put some size restriction on it and we get 2 other people here at the next meeting, and we're not faced with the pressure that if there's one no, this whole thing goes away. But I'm not guaranteeing that I'm voting yes just because the sign is smaller. I'm not comfortable with this variance.
Okay, so then what we would have to do would be to table it to the next meeting, and the applicant can take what the discussion is back to his people, and then we have to do this again at the next meeting. Is that acceptable? That's what we would do then. Because if we vote to approve it and there's 1 vote no, it's gone.
that's correct.
Yeah.
And so again, you have a list of things that you are a lot like that are suggested in motions. One of them is to table this or postpone it to a date specific. If we want it on the next agenda, I think all of us here want to make sure that changes are either made to this so that it is more in line, or otherwise, but yeah, that is one of the motions that you can make.
I would recommend both.
Well, I have a question about that though, because there are a couple elements that we're discussing, right? One is character, and that has to do with the location and how it's zoned, right? And historic preservation. So that's one element. Size has some relationship to that, but not directly. There's not a, so are there other elements that we should discuss in addition to size, or is it purely, I'm just trying to make sure that we conclude our discussion today so that everything, so what we're kicking, what, because I'm questioning what we're kicking down the road, right? Just to get more votes, or is there something that we need to further discuss amongst ourselves? And I'm not sure where I sit either, by the way. That's not why I'm asking you that question, but I'm trying to get to the bottom of if there are other considerations that could be made. Like maybe there's a locational one, or are there other elements we should discuss, or is that the terminal part of our discussion today?
Well, I mean, I think DC prohibits EMCs.
Yep.
Okay. So you could say no to the variance just on that. And not wanting to have a precedence of EMCs of any size proliferating through the DC zoning district. And you know, if you had a concern like I think I do of just driver distraction going down Grand Avenue, and or Cottonwood's breaking up your view, and you're look, oh, I missed it. I'm gonna wait to pass that Cottonwood and look at it again. And rather than paying attention to driving down Grand Street, you're watching an EMC that you're seeing, not seeing, seeing, not seeing, not seeing, seeing. I don't like the feel of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the situation that it exists. So I think it's a safety distraction. And if the county wants to get their message out of what's going on in the courthouse, because you're restricted to the uses of the courthouse. So you're talking assessor's office, treasury, you know, sheriff's, whatever, you know, to what degree a wider net is cast about things that are county related that aren't occurring on the premises. You know, if you start playing with the language like that, I don't know, it just feels very sticky to me, and I'm not comfortable with it. So whatever discussion you've heard my concerns, and that's just one.
I appreciate, I understand and appreciate your concerns, but I really think the county could definitely use some messaging and get their.
I mean, the thing is, we live in a world of messages. Everyone's got
No doubt about
websites
that.
and so forth and so on. And I mean, I just feel kind of like, okay, let's just do another one, and it's got this traffic component to it. You know, I don't know. If people want information, they can usually find it. I don't know. That's sort of off topic a little bit, but if that's what the county wants, you know, the county commissioners want to get. I mean, but how does that governmental desire to get information out differ from any business that wants to get information out about their business? It really doesn't, unless you have some sort of a zoning that says or exception that for governmental agencies we are allowing an additional non-permitted method for getting the word out, but it's for governmental agencies. It's for health, welfare, and for the public. You know that you put it in that little box, such that it doesn't have the mission creep associated with it for comparing businesses.
Follow on, Donald.
So do you think, Jake, would the county consider another location, or are they wedded to this location?
I think the location component is partially up for grabs. I don't know how, because it has to have communication to the building. So it's kind of got to be on the block, but whether it's moved one way or the other, it probably is not critical. where it lands.
But to Chris's point, no matter where you put it on the block, if it's on Grand, you know, he still has his driver distraction.
Correct, yes.
So,
So the question I'm asking is a site other than being on the block. Like on one of the major approaches or exits for Laramie, would that be a consideration? Or you're not sure?
I'm not sure. I think that would be a challenge to connect to it. But I'm not sure. I can't answer that exactly.
Would the community be better served if it was a joint county city EMC somewhere in town that, you know, was within some permittable, or exceptional variance, and so you did both city county things, vaccinations, voting, farmer's market, whatever. And it was a more comprehensive thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that probably would be the case, but I don't know how to answer that.
No, there's no response to it. It's just a.
all right, well, we have four alternatives that we can do with this. We can approve it as submitted. We can approve it and put conditions on it, which is staff's recommendation. Deny the variance or postpone the variance until issues identified during the meeting can be resolved. So what's the will of the commission here?
I would suggest we postpone the variance so that Jake can get some clarity as to, is there any latitude about adjusting the height? In other words, reducing the acreage of the sign? And would the county consider relocating it to a place other than right outside the courthouse?
Okay, so we're going to the motion would be to postpone the variance until issues identified during the meeting can be resolved. Is that, you want to make that a motion?
Correct. And do you, like, if you had a month, would that be enough, or is there some urgency in this?
I mean, I can have it turned around by the next meeting in 2
Okay.
weeks.
So it would be.
What's the date of our next meeting? Joe?
June 23rd.
June 23rd. So the motion would be to postpone the variance until issues identified during the meeting can be resolved at the June 23rd meeting.
That's correct.
So make it.
I suggest that we table this and reconsider it with additional information from the county at the June 23rd meeting, which I'm not going to be able to attend, but postpone it until the next meeting of the Planning Commission.
Do you want to bump it up to the next one? Next meeting, if you're available?
Yeah, could we do it to
In
the
July?
first meeting in July?
July 14th.
Okay. We'll put it on the calendar for July 14th.
If we got to see if there's a second.
Well, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
There's just something about electronic signs.
Well,
They're a contentious issue.
Yeah,
There's a lot of,
I know.
Yeah.
it's, you know, that's it. We're done.
It is, so I was in Gillette, Casper recently.
This meeting of the
yeah.
is adjourned.
So tell us, Jenna.
I was in Gillette and Casper recently.